Banjo Ben here with a more advanced version of Cripple Creek. Cripple Creek is one of those tunes that we learn when we're first starting to play banjo. It's very modular, pretty predictable, it's easy to learn. And as we progress through our banjo journey, we want to find some ways to spice it up. And really that's what this lesson is all about. It's built so that you can go in and you can take pieces of my arrangement, throw it into however you play Cripple Creek, just to keep it spicy, keep folks guessing. That's what it's all about. If you're watching somewhere else besides banjobenclark.com, you can come over to the site, join as a Gold Pit member. You get, of course, the video lesson, but you also get all the jam track MP3s as well as the tabs for what we're going to look at today. And I'd just be honored to have you on board. What we're going to do next is we're going to look at just the tune overview, because there are a couple things about the actual fiddle tune of Cripple Creek that I want to cover that will help us as we begin to think about it. And then we'll jump into all those various licks that we'll learn. And then finally, we're going to play it very slowly all together. Before we dive into the actual licks, let's cover just a few things about this tab and about this tune that help us as we approach the learning. When we look at the tab here, the first thing I want to point out is that the whole first line is what I call potatoes. And I've got lessons on the site just all about potatoes, but those are there to give you practice in how to start a fiddle tune. So if you're playing this with other folks and you're the one that's going to kick it off, you're going to want to do something like this. And I tried to throw some potatoes in that were a little bit more advanced and fun and kind of build as they go. We'll talk about how to play those in a bit. But if you're playing in a group where the solo's getting past you and the song's already going, you wouldn't start here at the beginning. But as we look forward, another thing that I want to point out is that we are in the key of A. So we're going to standard G tuning, but we're capoing up to the second fret. However, my chords that I've notated here when they change on the tab, I've left in the key of G. And that's because when we put a capo on the second fret on a banjo, we're thinking in the key of G. But because of the capo, it comes out in the key of A. If you want to understand that more, I've got a capo theory lesson on the website that clears all that up. But I think it's helpful whenever we capo to put the chord names that we're actually making with our hands versus what might be coming out with the capo's help. All right, finally, this is a fiddle tune and it has an A part and a B part, but it's set up differently than most fiddle tunes. So most fiddle tunes will have an A part and then it will repeat that. So 2 A's in a row. And then it goes to a B part, which has a different chord progression, different melody, and it will repeat that. Well, with Cripple Creek, we actually go back and forth. It's not A-A-B-B, it's A-B-A-B. So when we start here in measure 7, you see that I've written first A part. And that's going to last all the way down through measure 14. So 8 measures. And then the next thing you play is a B part. That's going to last 14 measures. And then we're going to go into the second A part. And then finally the third A, or the second B part, A, B, A, B. And each time we go to another A part or another B part, we're going to just keep adding a little bit more complex elements to our playing. So the first time through the A and B, it's pretty straight up. I would call it like just an intermediate version. As we go into the second A and B, we start getting more melodic stuff. We bring in some bends. They're more difficult pull-offs and hammer-on patterns that we're using. And I think that kind of qualifies it as an advanced tune. The good thing is, as I mentioned, you can just grab a measure or 2 measures or 4 measures or a whole A part, a whole B part, import that into your version and spice that up. Okay, let's actually look at the song itself and cover the first half of it now. Let's learn this version of Cripple Creek. Lots of great licks in here. Again, we're going to start off with these potatoes. If you don't know how to play potatoes or you don't understand that concept, pause this video, go over and search for the potato lesson on the website and watch that so you can get familiar. When it comes to these potatoes, there's lots of different ways to do it. It's pretty straight ahead, but I like how we're going to build the timing as we go. So we're going to start with a slide. I like to use my ring finger. Take note that those first couple potato measures there are a forward roll. When we go into the third measure on that line, we're going to go into a square roll. Okay, so when you put it all together, it has that building effect, right? And then the very last note of that line is actually where we start Cripple Creek. Cripple Creek's one of those fiddle tunes where it has a pickup note, and that just means you start on the beat before the actual A part begins. It has that lead in note. And traditionally, Cripple Creek starts there on that 2nd fret with a pinch. And we're going to slide up to the 5th fret. We're going to do some different things later on, but right now we really want to establish that melody. So as we go into the next line, simple, simple, little slide. Now let me talk to you about a couple important things as we begin to learn this when it comes to what our left hand is doing. One is, whenever we slide, on this song in particular, it sounds really great to add a bit of a bend into the slides. Now, I have lessons on this too, but we want it to sound like Earl. We just do. And if you do a search on YouTube for slide, bend, and 81 Crow, that's my friend Russ Carson, he has a great little lesson on why this is important and how to do it. Like I said, I've taught on the site several times, but we're going to do the slide from 2 to 3, but we're also going to push our string up a little bit and get just a little bit of bend. Watch. You hear the difference? You hear that little bend? Versus just a straight slide. And after you do it for a while, you get used to it, but we're almost making a half circle movement with our half oval movement with our middle finger as we slide that. Another thing that I want to mention is very important. If you look at the slide there in measure 9, it's an 8th note slide. And I teach a couple versions of Cripple Creek in the beginner segment of the website that demonstrates the difference between 8th note ornaments and 16th note ornaments. And it's important that you know how to play the two because it greatly affects the sound. So this is an 8th note ornament. You can tell because the little stem that connects below the 2 and 3 is just a single horizontal line. We'll see 8th, 16th note ornaments here in a bit. So what does that mean? That means that I'm going to aim for that 3rd fret in the slide. I'm going to aim for it to land on that 3rd fret as I play the 2nd note in that measure. So they happen at the same time. Sounds like this. Okay. If it was a 16th note slide, I would want to do the sliding twice as fast and land there before I play the next note like this. And it's important that we know the difference because we want to be in control of what we play. There's times where we want that 8th note sound where the slide or the hammer-on or the pull-off is blended with the next note that's being played, or we might want that pop, that ba-da-ba, that we hear so much in banjo playing, and that's where we're sliding, pulling off, or hammering on faster so that we hear that little extra note in there. You're going to want to be able to do both. It's just important to know that you can do both and that you should. We have a bit of a single string lick in here, don't we? The end of measure 9. Nothing hard about that. If we've never done single string stuff, playing the index and the thumb on the same string, then it'll take a little bit of getting used to it. Sliding into the next line, it's all pretty straight ahead. So here we have in this line an example of both the 8th note and the 16th note ornaments. In measure 12, we have that hammer on 2 to 3. It's the 16th note. You can tell because it has those double horizontal lines beneath the note. So we're going to hammer that 2 to 3 before we hit the open D string. But when we go from measure 13 into 14, we have an 8th note pull off. So we got to make sure not to rush that pull off because it is serving as one of the main 8th notes. Okay, so that whole line close or slowly. Whenever we play that pull off, it's good to try to play that a little bit louder with our pick hand because it's going to require a little bit of energy to carry the volume after you've pulled off or hammered on. So it's a good kind of thing to watch for whenever you're doing those ornaments, slides, pull-offs, hammer-ons, to give it a little bit more of the energy because you want them to stand out. Okay, so we're done with the first A part. Let's look at the first B part here. We're loaded up with what I call ornaments here. And if you've never done a deep dive in just how to play a proper slide or hammer-on, you need to pause again and go back to the beginner section. Search for those because we really learn the mechanics there. It's one of those things where you can fake for a while, and but after a while it becomes evident that you need to get them right. So here we've got 3 of those eighth note slides at a time. And remember, I'm going to try to bend each one of them. That little hammer-on at the end of measure 16 is an 16th note hammer-on. Okay. So when you're going really fast, can you tell the difference between 8th note and 16th note slides? I think you can, but ultimately you're not doing math at those types of speeds. It's more of a mindset thing. Like I'm gonna get to that 3rd fret about the time that I play the next note, and it creates more of a tense sound. There's more dissonance going on than if I did a fast slide. Do you hear the difference? There's a 16th note slide versus 8th note slide. Okay, so it's about the sound that we're wanting to get, and you need to be able to do both. Second half of that line. Okay. The last part of measure 17 is a difficult thing to do, and I don't care if you do your pull off with your middle finger or your ring. I think you should be able to do both. And I don't care if you push off like I'm doing toward the ceiling, or if you're pulling off down toward the floor, which may be a bit more efficient at times. The difficult part about this, though, is getting down to that 2nd fret right after you play it, because you're going to do that with your index finger. So you've got to move it quick. To get it clean. A whole line. Next line, start off with some more slides. And then this is a lick that I call the whiplash lick. I think I taught it in Lonesome Road Blues, or no, can't remember which one exactly. Lonesome Fiddle. I don't know, one of those. And I just love it. It sounds like this. Okay. It's one of those that takes a little bit of coordination. There are no 16th note ornaments in here, so we're doing a lot of pull-offs and hammer-ons to communicate those 8th notes. The only thing I did different is I put a slide on the end up to the 4th fret. And that makes for a quick move back home for the last measure. The whole line. I do recommend you do the slide from 2 to 4 with your middle finger, because that's less movement to go back. If you do it with your index finger, you got further to move to get back home. Okay, quick fingers on the left hand. Then we're going back into a second A part, and we'll take just a short break here. Let me reset my tab paper, and we'll dive into that. Let's learn the second half of the song. So here's another A part and another B part, and I really wanted to step it up on this one. So we've got some bends, we got some melodic licks, we have some more single string stuff, and more difficult pull-offs and hammer-ons. And you can take just a measure or two and import that into your solos, or you can try to learn it just as I've played it. As we start the second A part, we've slid up just like we've done before. Stay there, and we're going to do a forward roll and get into a bit of melodics, and I'm going to use my index finger to play the 5th fret on the 2nd fret, on the 2nd string. So, that's what measure 23 sounds like. Stay there, and then with my first 2 fingers, I'm going to play the 5th frets of the 2nd and 3rd string. Sounds like this. If you never learned any melodic stuff, just there on the site, click on the melodic tag. It'll bring up all my arrangements that use this kind of stuff. And I also have a course on Introduction to Melodics that has great exercises. And then a very fun lick in measure 25. This is just one that'll work wonderful over a D chord resolving to a G chord on any song. Sounds like this. no 16th note ornaments. Don't rush those hammer-ons and pull-offs. Whenever you play the 2nd fret for the hammer-on, you need to put quite a bit of pressure there with your index finger, because we're going to have to hammer with our middle finger and then pull right back off. And we don't want that string to get bent a whole lot. You can press too hard, but I want you to, your index finger has to hold it in place to get a good pull off of it right after you hammer on, and that can be a challenge. Whole line. Again, when you do that pull-off lick, going from measure 25 into 26, you're playing that string with your thumb. Give it some force there. You want that to be kind of the star note of the whole 2 measures. I missed it. Hear that? You want it to be sassy. You want it to be strong and bold. So throw that in there. We're going to slide into the next line, but this time we're going to slide with our index finger, and I'll show you why. We're not going all the way to the 5th fret. We're only going to the 3rd fret. And I'm going to pull in some Ron Block type stuff here, and we're going to use our ring finger to go to the 5th fret beneath it. And the first time we play it there, we're going to bend it up. And we're bending it up in half steps so that it matches the note that we've already fretted on the 1st string. So we get this. Now, maybe it's a bit difficult to bend that string up that far. I recommend that you put your middle finger behind your index finger, and you use both of these fingers' strength to push the string up. So starting measure 27, and you're going to stay bent for 3 forward rolls. And you're going so fast sometimes that you just bend it pretty close, and then as your ear hears, if you've bent too far or not enough, you'll correct it by the next time you come around. Now, when we play it the 3rd time in measure 28, we're going to release the bend. And it's like an 8th note bend release, okay? Just like we've been doing the slides and hammer-ons. So make sure that you don't rush it. We want. Okay, so when you put all that together, if you don't play the bend, get the bend and the release bend audible, then you kind of miss the point of the lick. So it's important that you don't do the bend before you pick it, and you don't release the bend before you pick it. Okay, so when I first picked that 5th fret, I have not bent it yet. Then I bend. Now I'm going to release bend after I pick it. Then we go into a great melodic position that you've probably seen before if you've done much blues melodic stuff. 6 and 4 here. And we're going to use our pinky to get the 8th fret. Whole line. Finally, the last B part, we're going to stay pretty traditional here. The first line, a couple of slides. Okay, what's different about this one? Well, we're going to cause people to trip up a little bit on purpose with some syncopation. So they're going to expect another slide at the start of measure 32. They're expecting you to go. But we're not going to give them a 3rd slide. We're going to give them just a quarter note and then a slide. So we're just flipping the coin on them and giving them a slide when they don't expect it. So those first 2 measures. Okay? When you play that 8th note on measure 32, the quarter note, I like to lift my finger off of it to create a little bit of space. right there. I don't really want. And if you put a little space in there, it makes it more evident what you're doing. Measure 33 is a very difficult measure because of how quick you have to get up for that pull-off. Earlier, it was difficult because we had to get down to the 4th string after a pull-off. This time, okay, I've got to go from here to the very next note. So you might just want to practice or just and get that movement down. And that pull off there, measure 33, that's the one that you want to lay the most, fire on because that's kind of the star of that measure is that pull off. So that whole line. Now we have another slide here, starting on the 4th beat of measure 34. We're going to slide from the 2nd fret here into the 4th fret of the last line, which begins our melodic lick that sounds like this. Pretty cool, huh? I love those quarter note slides that take us into the next measure. This is reminiscent of what we do on the A part, right? Cripple Creek's all about sliding into the start of the next measure. 1. So we're borrowing from the A part into the B part, doing the same type of element, it's just a different note. Do not rush that slide. Again, a quick pull off. And then we've got a series of hammer-ons and pull-offs, and this is just quintessential Scruggs Crow style banjo. So if you've never done much of this, it's a bit awkward, but you got to learn how to do these things and customize them as you go. If you just look at what we have here, starting halfway through measure 36, and you're looking at those 2 hammer-ons and the next pull-off in measure 37, just think about the roll patterns. The roll patterns starting with that thumb, it's just a forward roll. Then starting measure 37, you continue forward rolls. So it's 3 forward rolls in a row. So one way that you could kind of practice this is to start there and play through the end of 37 without any of the hammer-ons or pull-offs. Okay. Pretty cool. So as we slide in, again, the whole line. That may be the most difficult part of the song for you. I don't know, but that's where it's important. Like I teach in my theory of practice course that you need to watch. It's important to boil those problem areas down, identify them, practice maybe just a couple notes back to back, and then start incorporating more notes before and after that problem area to learn how to do that. Okay, it's time to play this thing slowly all the way through. Slowly from the top, I'll give you 1 measure count in, and don't forget that you can speed up or slow down this video by clicking the little gear icon. 1, 2, ready, go. you.